Okay, so I'm just gonna go straight into this video. I don't feel like an intro is needed because I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys have read this or seen a video about this because this video is pretty late in coming out. But of course, before we actually do get into the video, I want to just, notify you guys to just maybe leave a like and subscribe to the channel because a lot of you guys who watch the videos aren't actually subscribed. So if you could subscribe, then that would be a really big help. But let's just get into it now. This video is obviously on the redraw that just recently dropped from Murata, and this is the redraw for chapter 164. And this chapter retconned quite a lot of stuff, to say the least, because pretty much everything has changed from the last chapter. Like, last chapter might as well just have been like a troll chapter or whatever, because this chapter is completely different to what we received like 2 weeks ago. Now, starting off with one of the things that got retconned, Boros is not here anymore. Boros's relative or Boros's species guy is not in this chapter anymore, so he's kind of just got retconned out of the entire chapter. But I'm sure we'll see him later on in the series. But of course, we also don't see like the other characters from the Blast group. We just pretty much see like the notification that they've received this attack from Garo from another dimension, and of course everything is pretty much the same before that. Garo does his extreme power attack and does that crazy feat, but the things that are changed are the things after that. And I'll just say I personally prefer this redraw. I prefer this to what Murata dropped last week. I definitely didn't mind what he did last week or 2 weeks ago, but I definitely preferred like this version of chapter 164. But of course, Saitama does his consecutive normal punches and sends Garo flying, but instead Garo doesn't accept that he's going to be defeated by Saitama. Instead, he does the opposite and says Saitama is like the embodiment of unfairness, and we know that Garo is like against that stuff. And the silhouettes of Garo's bullies are behind Saitama in this whole panel shot, and we see Garo get up and says there's no way I'll let myself lose to him. And this is completely different to the last chapter, because we know that in this panel Garo actually says he might as well have lost to Saitama, or I guess he says something along the lines of, I guess this is how I wanted to lose all along, which is kind of contradictory to what Garo actually wanted to do the entire time. I feel like this is more accurate, and I guess kind of lines up more with Garo's ideology than the last chapter, I guess. But moving on, Saitama just punches Garo, and Garo, like, he kind of like sheds his monster skin. Like, he gets punched out of like his transformation, I guess. And I guess a storm cloud in the air starts like generating, and Garo says, so even after I've made it this far, it figures I get pulverized by this unbeatable unfairness, and now it's all over. And then we get this crazy panel of like the landscape and God's eye in the sky, which is the moon, of course. And he says, I can hear you. And I guess we get like a bit of like a switch to the heroes, and they unite with everyone else. And yeah, but we see like the storm cloud get bigger, and it's like circling under the moon, it seems. And it seems as though the other heroes have also seen this, and we see God's feet come out of like the storm clouds, and it's like both of his feet. And all the heroes are shocked by this, because this is a huge, like, this is on a huge scale, I'm guessing, because in comparison to the buildings that were destroyed, this is like massive. And Saitama just says, like, in the background, he says, what a weird thundercloud. And we see Garo like in the air whilst I guess God is approaching him. And Garo, because Saitama punched him in the air, I guess he's still like airborne at this point. And someone is speaking to Garo, which is obviously God, and God says, Garo, your deepest wish is now on the verge of falling apart into futility at the hands of a single hero. There is only one fist that could counter the fist that has turned against God. What do you think that is? And Garo this whole time is just kind of questioning who is actually talking to him. And we see that God does the same thing he did to Tatsumaki and turns himself into like a fake copy of Bang, and is kind of basically manipulating Garo to take his power. And we see Garo take the hand of Bang, well, the fake Bang, which is actually God. And we see that Garo, I guess, faces God, and I guess is being absorbed by him or something. And we see Saitama look into the air, and Garo comes flying down in a similar manner to the way Saitama first, arrived in the battlefield, when the first, you know, Saitama versus Garo happened, or when they first encountered each other in the last stages of the arc, or the last stages, you know what I mean. And we see that Saitama is looking at Garo and he's kind of wondering why he's changed his costume again, according to Saitama. And this is a pretty funny scene because we know that this whole scene is supposed to be serious, but Saitama is like, I guess, making it a comedic scene, as you know, as usual. This is what Saitama always does. But then we see that Garo has completely changed. He has no facial features. He's just like embedded with like cosmic, it's like a cosmic style design of like galaxies and planets in, you know, inside his body, which is pretty cool in my opinion. And we see that Garo says something that can counter the fist that has turned against God. I guess that would be the fist of God. And Saitama says in his head he sounds like he's talking in a bathroom or something, which again is pretty funny because I can kind of imagine Garo talking like in this like echoey way, which I guess is pretty good in time. Yeah, like I guess in terms of trying to figure out how he's speaking, it's pretty good in that aspect. But Garo then, I guess, gets into a stance, and it's revealed in the last panel that this is called Cosmic Fear Mode Awakened Garo, or Awakened Garo Cosmic Fear Mode. But of course this is probably definitely Garo's final form, and if you guys want to know how strong I think this form is, to be honest, I don't know because he's feetless at the moment, but I'm definitely guessing that he's stronger than the stuff he did in, you know, the last chapter, or I guess the original version of the redraw, or even in this chapter. He did still perform that feat in this chapter, but I'm guessing he is stronger than this, or that feat that he did. So I'm guessing he's probably stronger than Boros at this point. I don't want to make any clear-cut, like, you know, claims, but I'm pretty sure he's probably going to be stronger than Boros, let's be honest. But of course we're probably going to see that in the next chapter, but I just wanted to really go over this because this is a really big change compared to the last chapter. So I thought I just, you know, should go over the chapter and just tell you guys what happened. But of course I want to know what you guys think about this, because personally, as I said earlier on in the video, I definitely prefer this to, you know, the last chapter. But because, you know, the last chapter kind of seemed as though like we finished the fight, which was, I guess, understandable, but just didn't feel as fulfilling as, you know, when it happened in the webcomic, which is completely different. And I'm sure I'm going to talk about that later on in a different video, how the manga might be going in a more of a different direction than we originally thought to the webcomic. You know, even though they are basically two separate things, but they are happening in the same world, I do think that they are taking like two completely different directions, especially when it comes to Garo versus Saitama. But apart from that, that's pretty much all I have to say for this video. If you liked the video, make sure to leave a like. But apart from that, I'll see you in my next video.